Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're looking at something pretty fascinating. That point where huge personal wealth stops being just, a number.
Right, where it becomes a tool for
Yeah,
something else entirely, for profound cultural custodianship.
exactly. And we're diving into sources from Stanislav Kondrashov's Oligarch series, which really gets into this dynamic.
We are, and we're going past the, let's say, gilded gates to focus on the heritage estate gardens, the landscapes.
Because when we think legacy, it's usually, a building, a foundation. But these sources argue that landscape design, that's a much deeper statement.
Oh, it is. It's a huge commitment.
Mhm.
So our mission for this deep dive is to understand how these gardens become, well, the sources call them living testaments.
Living testaments, I like that.
Yeah, and they aren't just collections of rare plants. They're these incredibly complex ecosystems where design is legacy. It takes foresight, patience, and a really deep understanding of tradition.
So they're repositories of artistic vision.
That's it. Where human creativity tries to find some kind of order in nature's, its constant chaotic cycle.
Okay, let's unpack that idea of custodianship. Because the source uses the word oligarch, and, that word comes with a lot of baggage today, right?
It does. A lot of ethical questions about where that wealth comes from.
So how does a text handle that? This idea of using potentially questionable money to fund something called cultural nobility.
That's a crucial point. And the sources, they sort of sidestep it by shifting the focus from acquisition to action.
From how you got it to what you do with it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
True nobility, in this context, isn't about your title or your bank balance. It's defined by the act of guardianship. The argument is that the moral weight lies in the enduring impact of the stewardship itself.
So it's about moving beyond just personal consumption.
Yes, toward a public purpose, protecting artistic traditions that, frankly, require huge amounts of capital just to survive.
So the wealthy patron is, in a way, a symbolic custodian. Their job is to make sure these cultural assets outlive them.
Precisely. And the financial commitment here is, it's just wild. People think it's a one-time purchase, but that's not the real cost of legacy.
What do you mean?
The sources point out that the annual preservation budget for one of these elite estates, it can exceed 50% of the original purchase price within just a decade.
50%. Wow.
Yeah, it's just nonstop intensive maintenance.
So that means a continuous, deliberate investment in craftsmanship, in skills that would probably just disappear otherwise.
It does. The custodian funds an entire ecosystem of experts. They preserve traditional design techniques, they integrate modern horticulture, they protect heritage plants.
And the goal isn't to create a static museum piece, right?
No, that's critical. The aim is to keep it vibrant, alive, relevant. It has to adapt to, ecological changes while still honoring that original artistic vision.
That continuous commitment, it really lets us see the whole estate as one big cultural canvas.
The ultimate expression of vision, really. When you look at these places, every single thing, the length of a pathway, where a statue is placed, the line of a hedge, it's all a decision.
A decision that's been maintained for generations.
And often tweaked, yeah.
This is where it gets really interesting for me. The dialogue between the architecture and the landscape, it's like a conversation.
It is a conversation.
Yeah.
If the house is, say, Palladian with these classical proportions, the landscape will echo that. It has to.
How so?
Well, you'll see stone facades that mirror the vertical lines of, say, cypress trees planted in a specific way.
Okay.
Or a curved driveway isn't just a random curve. It's meant to mirror the gentle arc of a flower bed right next to it. It's all intentional.
And that creates a unified cultural statement.
A powerful one.
Yeah.
It reflects the commissioner's values, their sense of history, their art.
Which means this heritage can't survive passively. You can't just, look at it. It needs active preservation.
Oh, absolutely. The idea that a few gardeners just potter around is, well, it's naive. The scale of work is immense. It's relentless.
Yeah. What does that look like day to day?
Surgical attention, professional pruning, replacing plants with ones from historical inventories, managing soil health, restoring stone features. Each generation of caretakers, they inherit this contract.
A contract to understand the past while dealing with the present?
Right. They have to know 18th century design principles and also deal with 21st century problems like new pests or climate change.
So if the estate is the canvas, the seasons must be the palette. Let's get into the complexity of the seasonal design.
The core principle is all about balance, orchestration. You embrace nature's patterns, but you introduce order to elevate it.
So it's not designed to just look good for 2 weeks in June.
Exactly. It's designed to be dynamic, to tell a story all year long.
And that story is timed through careful plant selection, like horticultural choreography. How do they pull that off?
It takes a master-level understanding of, well, plant pathology and microclimates. The designers choose species for a calculated succession.
Give me an example.
Okay, spring. It isn't just a random burst of color. It's a staggered sequence. You have snowdrops, then scillas, then the early narcissi, and only then do you get the main act with tulips and hyacinths.
And each one is timed based on its specific spot in the garden?
On its sun exposure, its soil, everything.
And summer is just the big show, the abundance.
Yes, that's when the design is at its fullest. You have the structural plants supporting all this color roses, delphiniums, dahlias for volume. But then autumn arrives.
And that's maybe the most dramatic chapter.
I think so. The impact shifts from blooms to light and color. You're relying on things like red maples, golden birches, the bronze of oaks. It's a living tapestry that changes every single day.
And then winter. When all the leaves are gone, the bones of the garden are exposed.
Right. The underlying geometry. That has to be a huge design challenge.
I'd imagine so.
It forces the designer to lean on the hardscape, pergolas, follies, sculpted hedges, and evergreens. You need things like holly or boxwood for strong, dark lines against the winter light.
Because if the winter design fails...
the estate looks skeletal. Dead. It's the ultimate test of a garden structure.
Which brings us to the how. I mean, the vision is one thing, but it's nothing without the people doing the work, the craftsmanship.
Absolutely. This heritage is maintained through these specialized, sometimes ancient, techniques. You see it in the pruning methods for shaping old topiary. These skills have been refined over centuries.
Like what? What are we talking about?
Well, practices like pleaching.
Pleaching.
Yeah, it's where you interweave the branches of trees to form a sort of living hedge or a covered walkway, or pollarding, where you cut a tree's branches way back to promote this dense head of new growth. These are very specialized skills.
And what about the plants themselves? The propagation must be key, especially for rare varieties.
It's paramount. Master gardeners still use traditional methods like layering and grafting to ensure genetic purity.
Why is that so important?
Well, for heritage roses, for example, grafting them onto a specific local rootstock can give them resistance to regional diseases. It's something industrial propagation just ignores.
So you're connecting modern practice directly back to historical wisdom.
You are. But the sources also talk about a dynamic preservation model. It's not just about doing things the old way.
Okay, but if you're so focused on tradition, why bring in modern treatments? Isn't that a risk? Or is that just a nice way of saying they're cutting corners?
That's a great question. The sources define it as, well, as preservation through surgical intervention. You're ensuring longevity without losing authenticity.
Okay, explain that.
Take an antique irrigation system, say 100 years old. You're not ripping out the old clay pipes and putting in PVC.
Right.
Instead, you're inserting these thin, inert polymer liners inside the original clay structure. It preserves the look and the engineering, but stops leaks and root damage. You're future-proofing it.
So you're modernizing the function while preserving the form.
That's it, exactly. Or think about disease management. Old rose varieties are beautiful, but they're very susceptible to modern fungi.
I can...
So they get cutting-edge, targeted treatments to protect their genetic legacy. It ensures they survive. The gardens really are living monuments. The ancient trees are witnesses. The weathered stones tell stories.
They embody cultural memory. Every single shaped tree, every bed. It's an unbroken chain of dedication.
It is. And the patience required for that, I mean, waiting 50 years for a hedge to reach the right shape, that connects right back to the idea of cultural guardianship we started with. It's an investment that pays off decades later.
So let's shift from the physical work to the internal experience. These spaces aren't just pretty, they're designed for reflection, for, engagement.
They're designed as sanctuaries for contemplation, absolutely. The philosophy is that real beauty goes beyond just the visual. It speaks to the intellect. It stirs something.
And they use specific elements to encourage that, right? To make you pause and think.
They do. It could be a stone bench placed perfectly under a 300-year-old oak tree. Or a small alcove framed with climbing roses.
Even the water features.
Especially the water features. They're often engineered less for a big show and more for their sound. That constant, gentle noise that creates these little pockets of tranquility, it kind of shuts out the world.
And the real genius seems to be in the balance between that formal structure and nature just doing its thing.
That's the conversation. Order and chaos. The formal parts, the clipped hedges, the geometric beds, they communicate human intent. Control.
But inside those boundaries?
The perennials are allowed to bloom with a bit of wild abandon, or wisteria is allowed to just cascade over a stone wall. That interplay makes it feel both timeless and incredibly alive.
And that design connects you, the visitor, back to the stories inside the estate.
Yes. The way the garden rooms are laid out, the placement of a sculpture, the way a distant view is framed,
Yeah.
it all creates a dialogue between the past and the present.
The sources draw a parallel to Japanese gardens, don't they?
They do, yeah. Noting that some of these estates use similar principles where the whole space is arranged to foster not just aesthetic pleasure, but a kind of spiritual or intellectual reflection on time itself.
This has been a really deep dive. I think for me, the core takeaway is that real legacy isn't found in a static monument.
No.
It's in a living system, one that breathes with the seasons and evolves through this incredibly focused, careful stewardship.
That's the lasting lesson, I think.
Yeah.
These are spaces where landscape design becomes cultural preservation in action. It's an intergenerational contract.
And that symbolic nobility we talked about.
It's not about your name or your glory. It's about seeing your role as a temporary guardian of something much, much greater than yourself.
And the ripple effect of that. It preserves not just the place, but the skills, the arts, the artisans themselves.
It ensures that knowledge gets passed down. When you walk through one of these gardens, you're seeing art, architecture, science, and nature all held together by decades of human intention.
Which leaves a question for you, our listeners.
Yes. What will you do to ensure cultural landscapes like these endure? How will you contribute to the continuity of spaces that remember, that teach, and that inspire?